Hi, everyone. Welcome to my podcast, When Tech Meets Ed. This is Professor Jie Ren. Today, I'm very happy to have Heather Darnell from London joining us to talk about female entrepreneurship and tech. This is part of this special series for this month. And then Heather is the founder of the company Ask the Boss. So Heather, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. First, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. So Ask the Boss is a accountancy firm, although I didn't start out as an accountancy firm. When I started Ask the Boss in 2003, it was originally just a finance director consultancy or CFO consultancy because I had left the big business world and really wanted to provide the same kind of services and tools that big business had to small businesses. And finance director was what my skill set was. So I started out as a one-man band on my own. And
Wow.
over time, it became really clear that our clients needed more help with bookkeeping and accounting. So I slowly but surely built up a team around me that did those things. And I think after about 20 years of it, I
Yeah,
actually
you
went back.
founded it in 2003. That
Yeah,
was quite amazing.
2003.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was maybe almost 20 years into it, I went back to school and technically became an accountant myself. I got qualified here in the UK. So now I am an accountant and I run an accountancy firm.
Oh, that is amazing. So I did look at your company's website. I did a little bit of research, my homework. Um, so I know that your company, has gone through more than 20 years, right? And you guys also look at the map that you guys have
Yeah.
shown in terms of timeline. There are so many great milestone moments. Could you
Yes.
please share with us? I can imagine as the entrepreneur, it is always so memorizable in terms of your very first client,
Oh,
right? So could
yes.
you please share that?
Yes. Well, I think like a lot of people starting out, your first clients are going to be people you know already because it's
Mm,
so hard to sell yourself without, a lot of experience behind you. So my first ever big proper client was a great friend of mine. She ran a marketing firm. And
mhm.
I think you can see it on our story on the website. There's
Yes.
a picture of their team.
Mhm.
And we started out doing some small projects for them and then did more and more over time. Um, and until they finally stopped their company, we worked with them for years and years. Yeah, great memories of them.
So starting from the very first client, right? And then you can kind of reach out to their connections and then kind of it's like a snowballing effect,
It
right? Do you see
absolutely
that?
true.
Hmm.
I would say over 80% of all of our clients over the years have come from referrals from existing clients. I
Mm,
tried all the normal stuff. I went to networking events, posted on social, that sort of thing. But in most business, it's connections with humans or people recommending people that is the great way to grow your business. And yeah, the first three clients were so hard, to
mm.
get. But once you have a critical mass, as you say, it snowballs and then they tell people and then they tell people. And that's when you get the great success. Um, I mean, I'll tell you an embarrassing story, but it's got a good ending,
Mm.
which is that my very first year of trading, my total turnover was £6,000. Um,
Wow.
and now we've been over £1 million a year for years now, but it does start small. And the
Mm,
beginning bit is the most difficult. It's not
mm,
like that it gets easy after that. You have different problems as you
mm.
grow, but getting those first clients is really difficult.
Now we are talking about the difficulties and the challenges, right? And then you also talked about at the beginning is always, not always, like usually, right? So the most challenging phase, right? But other than that, any other like big moments and when you are thinking, wow, this is it, right? I
Yeah.
really have to like put all my bets in it in order to survive this moment. Do you want to
Yeah.
share any moments of that?
Well, almost all of them have to do with staff. I'll never forget the first time I hired
Mm,
a permanent staff member as opposed to an intern or temporary help. It's a
mm,
huge responsibility to take on of having an employee. That was a very big deal. Um, and I think probably when I set out, I said I would never have a company with more than 10 people in it. I really like that small company vibe and culture. So I really remember when we went over 10 people. At some point, we were so big, we had 16 people. And it didn't take long for me to realize, no, I really do like it smaller. So we've been between 8 and 10 people now for a few years. That is our perfect kind of sweet spot. Um, and then again, probably the most recent, hugely memorable moment was just over a year ago when three of the staff became shareholders in the business. So, really, all of the most exciting moments, both scary
mm.
and positive, have all been around staff.
Yeah, I did see the badge that you guys put on your website, like employee-owned company.
That's
That
right.
is such a proud
Yeah.
thing to do, right? And
Yeah.
also in your story that you guys demonstrated on website, I did see like throughout the many years, right? And when there are some permanent staff members joining the team, and then you
Yeah.
say someone join the team. That's
Yeah.
really amazing, right? And
Yeah.
then also, I know that we are gonna definitely address female entrepreneurship, right? And then maybe if you want to talk about it now, you can, like in terms of this kind of family vibe that you
Yeah.
are creating. Could you
Yeah.
please elaborate that?
Yeah. Yeah. I might not be great at talking about this. It's one of those things that's hard to put into words, but yes, very much so. The environment in the office and our colleagues, it is I
Mm,
I don't think family is the right word, but there is definitely something nurturing. The relationship is definitely more than just employee to employee. Um, and watching other people grow, which you can do when someone's been with you for a long time, is one of the most rewarding things I think about owning a business. So it's got elements of family in it. But yeah, it's really important. And I think that there are a lot of men entrepreneurs that are very good at that nurturing as well. But
mhm,
I would say probably still on balance, more women owned businesses create that environment than men owned ones.
mm.
But then again, not every woman's like that either. It's specific to the person.
Yeah. So now we have talked about the journey, and we will like look back to it when you are like giving suggestions to future female entrepreneurs later. And then let's now kind of shift the topic to the use of IT, like
Mhm.
technology in your own journey, right? Especially in the early days.
Yeah.
Could you please share any stories?
Well, sure, but when I started, it was so long ago that my technological journey will sound idiotic now. I mean, I'll never forget when I started, I bought a desktop computer. I bought software that came in on disks that you had to load into your computer. I mean, it was just such a different world.
Mhm.
Probably the only thing I did then that has a correlate now is I had to build a website. And, I used
Mm,
one of those template systems like everyone does. But I suspect today, with the use of AI helping you generate things, it would be a lot quicker and easier. Um, but yeah, so my early technology journey was not very interesting. Our use of technology over the last 20 odd years has been hugely transformative.
mhm.
We went paperless as a company. And remember, we're accountants. We
Yes.
went paperless years and years and years ago. I think it might have been 2005, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Mm,
And we moved into the cloud only solutions probably about 2010. So
mm,
it's amazing that how much easier it is nowadays with all
mm,
subscription based software and everything in the cloud. So much so than when COVID came and we essentially got kicked out of our office with almost no notice, we all scattered to our own homes, but we picked up like nothing had happened. It
mm.
it really
Like
is
in online then.
amazing. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's amazing what technology can do now. And I do still see some business owners today living with kind of the old technology regime, keeping private servers really kind of making a rod for their own back, I think. Technology's moved on so much now that having everything in the cloud and having people able to work from anywhere is really critical. Since COVID, we've even implemented a policy that any of our staff can work from anywhere in the world for up to a month at a time, as
Mm,
long as they overlap with at least half of the UK working day.
mhm.
So we've had the Italian office, the Pakistani office, the Indian office, the China
Nice.
office. And you can only really do that when your technology is set up in such a way to have freedom of movement.
Yeah, you touched upon connectivity, right? By the use of IT, right? And then in your examples, you talk about like how workers are working, right, via, for example, Zoom, etc. It's like right now you are
Yeah.
connecting with us from London by the use of technology. And then could you please give some examples in terms of how IT is transforming how businesses communicate? I can
Yeah.
imagine in 2003, Facebook was not founded, right? And you were
Yeah.
like relying on the website to communicate
Yeah.
to your clients.
Yeah.
And then do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah. I mean, one of the biggest communication and technology issues in business today is usually decided by which company you work for because they
Mm,
make one really important decision that's usually a company wide thing. And that is, are you a Microsoft house where you're going to use Teams? Are you a
mm,
Google house where you're going to use Google Meet? Are you
mhm,
a Slack type company where you use huddles? Or do you use Zoom?
mm,
And it because we're accountants, so we deal with lots of different clients. We have clients that use every single one of those platforms. And the way you personalize each of those is really important in today's business because you don't see so many people face to face anymore. People make judgments on what little information they have and what do you have? You have your background, you have, what have you put as your name in your whichever system you're using? Is
mm,
it your initials? Are you using your kids' login? Is
mm,
it very corporate? Do you have a corporate backdrop? All of those things send signals and clues in business now that
mm,
are specific to those technology and communication platforms. So one of my recommendations is always to people, particularly when they're starting up in business and really trying to, um, get yourself out there, is make sure that you're representing yourself in the way you want to be seen using whatever technology you use. I can't tell you the number of interviews I've done where someone has their laundry hanging behind them or something like that, that you just kind of lose all respect for someone really, really quickly over
mm,
something kind of small. So,
mm.
although we're talking about technology and communication, what I really want to say is that it's almost platform independent. It's how you use it and the human side of it that's really important in business.
Yes, I agree. I remember like in one of the orientations, right? I was saying the same thing to my students, like be careful what you post online, right? In terms of
Oh
the
yeah.
use of social media. This is the same thing, right? It's kind of your branding strategy, right? How
Yeah,
you want other to perceive you, especially in the business context, right?
absolutely.
Mhm. This is okay. So maybe let's talk about nowadays technologies, right? And then it's
Yeah.
so changing so fast, right? Especially given AI, Gen AI, that is very much transforming society. And
Yeah.
then if you were starting your business today, right? Facing this kind of overwhelmingly big amount of technologies with such a wide variety of choices,
Yep.
like what would be you doing differently?
Yeah. It's a great question. And when you're first starting out and you haven't made those decisions yet, there's almost too much choice. So
Mm,
my biggest recommendation is to talk to other people, particularly in your industry, if you already, have selected what it's going to be, because by far and away, you'd be amazed at how many people like to share and help. Don't
Mm,
ever be afraid of asking people, what do you use? How did you select, this software? What do you think about it?
mm,
And gather that information from people. So whether you go to industry events and do networking or whether you're on forums online, absolutely post the question and you'd be amazed at how many people answer or are willing to have a phone call with you, even if you've never met them before.
mm,
So talk to other people, but once you make your selection and you start working with it, it doesn't end there because new technology comes all the time. So whether it's, going to industry events where, believe me, software providers will always be present there because they're trying to sell their wares to you.
yes.
Um, reading, reading information, whatever magazine or forums are relevant to your industry, look at those. I highly recommending trialing software a lot. Almost
Mm,
every piece of software out there will give you a 14-day free trial.
mhm,
Um, so as long as you've got the time and the effort to put into trialing it, make use of those. Um, I think that's really important. And never assume that whatever your, we call it your stack. What's your software stack? Don't ever think it's static. New things will happen all the time. I'm very lucky. I'm a member of something called the Early Adopters Hub, which is
mm,
very specifically for the accounting industry, where people that are developing software for the industry will come to us and show us their product as they're building it and get our feedback to
mhm,
help their development process. So it means we get really early access to new tools and get to talk to the founders and people building it. So that helps us select new software all the time. But yeah, if there's anything like that in whatever business you're going into, see if you can find yourself one of those groups.
Okay, so I have a follow-up question on this, right? So you are saying that technologies are changing all the time, and we could like try the different, especially new technologies, as we are connecting with different people from the industries, especially at networking sites. They're always so friendly to offer, right? And
Yeah.
also these software vendors, they want to offer like new products. So from your experiences, as you are changing the adoption of different software, for example, to upgrade it or change it entirely. I don't know what you are using, for example, from Microsoft all the way to Apple. How do you deploy that in your company so
Yeah.
that your employees do not complain and your clients don't complain, etc.?
Yeah.
Do you want to
It's a
share your experience?
it's a great question. And depending on how big the shift is from your change in software, it can be anywhere from almost seamless to truly painful. And so, every scenario is unique, but I would say whatever you do, if you're going to be installing a new software or implementing it in your company, or even harder, pushing it out to your clients, make sure you've been the guinea pig first. You have to use it, get to know what's good about it, what's not good about it, be able to enunciate the things that it's helping you do and therefore why it's better.
Mm,
Because one thing that doesn't help the process is just telling someone what features it has. What really helps is telling it how it helps you. you
mm,
know, no one loves software for itself, really, maybe unless you built it yourself. You
yeah.
love it for what it does for you.
Mhm.
So be sure to talk about the benefits of it and how it helps you, the person, do your job rather than some cool new feature it has. Yeah.
I
So
like
I
the, yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, kind of advice piece number one is make yourself a guinea pig, so
Mm,
you can truly talk about it with honesty to other people. And number two, depending on how difficult it is, for the most difficult switches, the best thing you can do is sit with them as you show it to them, come back 4 days later, sit with them again, come back 4 days later, sit with them again, because it's only once people start using it that they really get good questions and things like that. So don't think that you can just put a piece of new software out there, do one set of training and walk away. No, no, no. The more time you can devote to helping people get used to the new software, the better.
Yeah. I like the message that you are delivering from your answer, which is you want to know what the software does for you, right? And you want to try it yourself, not because of the price or the brand or some
Yeah.
other companies are doing it. So you have to follow that trend as well, right? It's kind of that alignment that matters. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm gonna switch to kind of the hottest topic right now, artificial intelligence, right? Is in your company, are you using any of that in your day-to-day work?
Yeah. And I'd say almost every 3 months we use it significantly more than the
Mm,
3 months prior. And I think that will continue just because so many new things are coming out now. So we use it very simply, like a lot of other people, to help generate content, to start a report or anything you need to write. Just so it's so nice to get the bare bones of something down first, and then you edit it rather than starting from scratch.
mhm,
Um, but we in our industry we use a lot of AI,
mm,
um, and and I'd say that all of the examples I can give you are so weirdly specific to ours, but we've recently bought a tax AI tool that I would say has probably been the biggest game changer in the technology we've used at our firm in
mm,
over 10 years.
mm.
It's that good. But I will tell you, all the versions before it that other people came out with were horrible. So it's you have to constantly try and see what's out there.
That is amazing, right? How AI could like help you in terms of your day-to-day operations, and especially the use of the AI tools to create content for, like, for example, social media posting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay. Before we go to the next part of the conversation, which is, your suggestion to the female entrepreneurs in the future, I also want to touch upon your very new initiative, which is the accelerator program. Do you want to talk about that?
yeah.
You are like helping the startups.
Yeah, well, it's a real passion of all of ours at the office.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of industries. You might think that accountants are quite closed off people that don't like talking to people, but it's not true. We really like to help people, and this accelerator program is some of the most rewarding things we do because you find a company that's early stage. They might not have a lot of funding, and we're not cheap. We're very much a boutique firm, so you get great service from us, but it's more expensive than typical. So
Mhm,
there's some companies that can't afford what we do yet, but
mhm,
we know that if they're really willing to learn and they're really committed to it, we will dedicate time to them pro bono, um, and give them a discount as they grow to help them get to that point where they are making enough money that they can afford our fees. Um, it's great fun to watch because there's lots of people that start up businesses that it never goes anywhere. As soon
mm.
as they start it, they realize how hard it is, and it stops. Those aren't the people we want to help. So it's about finding people you can just apply to our program, and if it's a good fit, then we do dedicate the time to help them get set up, pick their systems, um, get in a place where they can make really informed decisions based on their financial information, that will help them grow their business. It's lovely. It's really nice.
I can imagine, right? So this program started in 2022. So this is like almost 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And I really like that how you guys put together these statistics rates in terms of, oh, how many people, like, oh, what is ratio of like companies, startups that tend to fail
Yeah.
out of all the starting startups, right? So you can see this is it's a kind of like a very true fact that there is a high failure rate in the field of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So it takes risks, right? Do you believe the saying that entrepreneurs are always like risk takers?
No, see, I have a completely different take on this.
Mhm,
Most of the entrepreneurs I know, and I've worked with a lot of them over the years,
mhm,
are very calculated risk takers.
mm,
They're not reckless. They
mm,
don't just take huge risks and leap into the unknown based on nothing. They take risks, but they're calculated risks. They think about the alternatives. And I don't think most businesses fail because someone has risked too much and
mm,
it's gone bad that way. I don't think that's what causes so many startups to fail. But I do think entrepreneurs are very good at calculating risk and understanding risk and selecting the best way forward um, based on the information they have. And you get different types of entrepreneur. I'm a slow entrepreneur. Remember, I said my first year turnover was £6,000 for the
mhm,
whole year. It
mm,
took me a long time to start,
mm,
but bit by bit, year by year, it's grown. And once we hit critical mass, now I don't feel like I take risks anymore. It's very
mm,
stable. You get other people. I was just talking with a client today who's got the opportunity to massively increase their lease so they could increase the space they have and
mhm,
deliver more services to their customers, but at a huge cost. So
mm,
we spent weeks modeling out and discussing what if we do this? What if we do that? What if this happens? What can we do to mitigate that risk? Is
mhm,
there any way to lessen the impact? And only then do they make a decision. No one ever hears minute one, here's an opportunity, and they just say, yes, go for it.
mhm.
So, no, I don't think entrepreneurs are risk takers. I know
Okay.
that's a bit controversial, but
I agree with you. I mean, it's not only the risk itself, right? It's not like the bolder, the better. You also need to evaluate the situation to see and to
yeah,
evaluate the risks as well as the potential gains, right? And then
absolutely.
renews that definitely will matter, right? And also
Yeah,
be resilient, as you said, right? You started with not so much gain in the beginning, and then like throughout the so many years, right, of so
yeah,
many challenges that you have tackled, right, in order to achieve to the current state, which is quite stable, right?
yeah,
So, any like being a female yourself, right, and then can imagine there could be some challenges that are like as a woman, right? So
yeah,
so could you please share your advice that it could give to any future female entrepreneurs?
sure. So I would say the two things I see the most often that women entrepreneurs do that they're doing themselves a disservice by doing is
Mm.
number one, they over service. If you're in a service business and someone pays you to do X, Y, and Z, you do X, Y, Z, ABC, PDQ. Everyone, women tend to over deliver. And this is a really big mistake to make. Number one,
Mm,
you're giving away a lot of time for free. Number
mm,
two, you're setting up your clients to expect that all the time.
mm,
And particularly in the early days where you have free time, it's one thing. Later on, as you scale, you can't do it anymore. And then you're taking away something that a client has gotten used to.
mhm.
And number three, I think women more than men want to not be a people pleaser, but we like when people are happy around us. And so
Yeah.
over servicing sometimes it comes out of that. Um, and I would say to anyone that starts out and finds themselves over servicing, which you will, is the shift in mindset and communication you need to take on is to say to your client, um, you know, I know you've only signed up to this package or this service, but I am going to do this other thing for you, which normally costs X, but for you, I'm going to do at a discounted rate or for free for
Mm,
2 months. But then if it's going to continue, I need to charge you. Because if you don't set out at the beginning the extra work you're going to do, it just becomes part of the expectation. So I think it's really effective if you say to someone, "I normally charge £1,000 for this, but for you, I will do it for 2 months for free, and then if you want it to continue, I'll only charge you £750."
mm,
Then you can you end up narrowing the gap between what you're being paid for and what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
my one big piece of advice is don't be too much of a people pleaser. Don't overservice.
Yeah, I cannot agree with you more on this, right? I know this is still happening in so many cultures. So,
Yeah.
in my
And
culture, like growing up, right? Well, I don't know. Well, I think you can relate to that as well, right? I
yeah,
think I have been a people pleaser myself as well, right? I have been
yeah.
like struggling with that as well. So, I
Well,
can
even in
imagine.
academia, you'll find that it's the women that more often volunteer for the committees that everyone needs
Mm,
to be on
yes.
more than the men do. And
Yeah.
we want to be helpful and we want to be a part of it, but it's really important you do set boundaries. Yeah.
Yes, I cannot agree more on this, right? No, know the value of our like offerings, right? Especially
Yeah.
in the business context, right?
Yeah.
And then manage the client's expectations better. Hmm.
Which is a great segue into my second recommendation for women entrepreneurs, which is that they always undervalue themselves and
Mm,
underprice themselves.
mm,
So if your industry typically charges £200 an hour for your work, when you start out, you say, ooh, no one's going to pay me that. Um, I'll only charge £70 and one day I'll work my way up to that. Well, again, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You're telling people from day one that you're not as valuable. And number two, it's really, really hard to increase prices once someone's gotten used to a lower one.
mhm,
So again, one of my recommendations is to say, we normally charge £250 an hour, but
mhm,
for you, we'll only charge 175 for the first 6 months. There's really ways to change the narrative, but don't be afraid to to price yourself at what the real market value is.
mhm.
Um, and whether it's imposter syndrome or whatever it is, you might
Yes.
think there's people out there that are better at this than you or could
Mhm,
charge more, but you know what? No. There's always going to be someone better than you, but there's always someone that you're better than. And
mhm,
if the market value is X, you should charge X. Um, so yeah, I see people get into real difficulties by underpricing themselves. And if you're a product business, that's even more dangerous because the
mhm,
margins in product businesses are much smaller. And
mhm,
if you do start giving away an extra commission or discount to a retailer or someone, or your costs go up a bit, or God forbid, a new tariff comes in you hadn't planned for, it's harder to manage those margins. So start strong, start
mhm,
high, um,
mhm.
and don't feel as though you're charging too much for what you're worth. And that is definitely something that I think affects women entrepreneurs a billion times more than men entrepreneurs.
Well, thank you so much for the wonderful insights. So I totally agree with you, especially your final two suggestions to the female entrepreneurs. Right, know our worth, be
Yeah.
confident about what we offer. Right, I
Yes.
think that is the essential message. Right, thank you
Yes.
so much, Heather, for your time and then
It's
for
my
connecting
pleasure.
with us from London. Thank you so much.